Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today. I finally finished reading a book that I kind of read through last week. I was having a really hard time trying to really make the effort to read this book, mainly because last week was a really hectic, crazy week. But also, I've kind of started migrating onto some other projects and work that I want to work on around the house. My wife and I have some stuff in our own personal life we might be working on here soon, possibly moving to a new place. Really cool, exciting stuff. But anyway, I finally read the first of the two final Goosebumps books I have to review, which really aren't Goosebumps books, but they're Goosebumps related nonetheless. The book that I just finished up is It Came From Ohio, My Life as a Writer by R.L. Stine. Written by the man himself, an autobiography. And of course, here is the original cover, with a lenticular cover, which is pretty cool. The monsters show up one way, then it's just him by himself, vice versa. Really love it. Both really cool covers, really enjoyed the book. This is a longer edition though, so I went ahead and read this one. This is closer to about 160 pages. This is about 135. There's a couple of extra chapters in this version because this was a Brandon Dorman era re-release, and it was some cool stuff, man. A lot of bonus stuff in here, final questions at the end of the book, all kinds of neat things. But, of course, that is one of two autobiographies. The other one is the one about Tim Jacobus, the original cover artist. This is only about 70 pages long. I'm going to start reading that. There's a little fuzz in the air. I'm going to read this a little bit today before I go to work and after I have some breakfast. But anyway, It Came From Ohio, My Life as a Writer was a book that I wanted to save these final two to be the final two I review. Of course, there's a couple of Slappy World books coming out. There's this new series starting at the end of the year called House of Shivers. There's a lot of new things coming from Goosebumps still, but I've reviewed everything before this. Everything. Every series that has an entry, I've reviewed it so far. Every miscellaneous writing book from somebody else who has nothing to do with Goosebumps, I've reviewed on this channel. I've talked about a lot of things. And let me tell you first and foremost, I loved this book. I didn't know a lot about Stine's personal life. I didn't know a lot about him. And I learned so much about this guy. I learned about his past, his childhood, the things that scared him a little bit. His brother, I learned a lot about his brother too. Stine is like myself in the sense of he grew up loving horror movies. He grew up watching all of these like 1950s black and white horror films. The dude is 80 years old. I didn't realize that. I think he's about to turn 81, something like that. I didn't do the math, but I did the basic math where I'm like, he's like 80 years old. That is crazy to me that this dude is still putting out 3 and 4 books a year, sometimes more. That's crazy. The dude is the most productive, workaholic writer type I've ever seen in my life. More so than somebody like Stephen King, who was also like that as well. He doesn't put out as many books, but he still puts out like 2 a year, and they're massive, you know? Stine is such a talented guy. And as you can tell, I'm pretty obsessed. I've reviewed every single Goosebumps book. I've reviewed every episode of the original TV series. I'm looking forward, relatively, to the new Disney Plus show. I haven't reviewed both movies yet, but I did review the sequel, the Haunted Halloween or whatever. I love Goosebumps. I think many of you already know that. I've talked about this for 4 years now on this channel. As of February of 2023, it's been 4 years I've been doing this channel. And, I love it, I'm obsessed with it, and I will tell you, even, let me backtrack. No matter the degree of how big of a fan you are, if you're a newcomer, if you're a long-timer like myself who's been around pretty much since the beginning, or if you, again, just started recently because of the movies or anything, if you love Goosebumps, this book is so meant for you. It is such a love letter to the fans. It's not your typical egotistical autobiography in the sense of like just somebody talking constantly about themselves. I've read quite a few autobiographies in my time, and I will tell you, a lot of them are just me, 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 me. Yes, that's what an autobiography should be, but a lot of them are people trying to glorify themselves, and I see that a lot. Stine absolutely does not do that with this book. You know, he's very vague about how personal he gets in his life in this book. You know, a lot of it's talking about his projects like Fear Street, a lot of Goosebumps talk, excuse me. But he still gives some personal life stories that I really love, and they don't seem like total BS-filled type stuff that a lot of writers give, a lot of advice that people give. I love that about it. It's not entirely about writing, obviously, but I wish I knew even more about Stein because of how much I loved hearing about him here and how much I loved reading about this guy and the stuff that he thinks and the way he thinks. All of that. It's just fascinating. I love that about it. I loved learning about his publishing history with Scholastic and the things he used to do about writing his own magazines. A lot of writers have done that. I've done that. And it was such an engaging read. Every time I picked it up over the last week, no matter how busy it was at work and everything, every time I picked it up and read 10 or 15 pages at a time, I'm telling you, I had such a good time. I learned so much about this guy, and I think I love Stein even more now after reading this book. He's such a wholesome, sweet man that I think he's done so much for young readers. And people like myself, I wasn't into reading when I was a kid until I started reading Goosebumps. I loved Goosebumps. I loved movies. And movies were where I got my stories, mainly like Star Wars, for example. But Stein got me into reading horror. Not just watching it, but reading horror, reading sci-fi, that kind of thing. Stein did that for me. As you can tell, I bought everything in the recent years. I love this guy. I really don't have much more to say. How do you critique something like this? Again, I wish it was less kind of vague about his history. But again, with autobiographies, I don't like to see people delve too much into their friends' lives and that kind of thing. But the way he did that in such a short, sweet way was so good. For 160 pages, I loved all that. I loved hearing his thoughts about the Goosebumps movie and Jack Black playing him. It was just very special. It was such a special read, very much like I think that Tim Jacobus book will be. It was special in the sense of, I just felt like I learned so much about this guy that I've been reading about and talking about all of his content, or at least his Goosebumps books, for 4 years now. I've known his work most of my life, since I was like 5 or 6. And then getting the chance to read this and fall in love with it fall in love with this guy, like a lot of people did. It just makes those cameos from the TV specials. It makes the cameo in the movie. It makes all of these things more special to me. It makes this collection more special to me. I don't really know how else to put it. I just had such a good time reading this, and it's such a wholesome read. Again, it's really commendable for how Stein went about this. He realizes he should make a goof out of himself sometimes because of some of the stupid things that he's done in his life, some of the fun things, he had a seal show, like at a SeaWorld type of thing at one point. That was cute to read about. There were so many cool little stories that I got to hear about in here. I appreciate it. I know I just have this big dumb grin on my face, but I truly loved this. I had such a good time reading it, and I highly recommend it if you happen to be a massive Goosebumps fan like myself, or even a Fear Street fan. Like I said, all of those things are covered here. His other series, like Mostly Ghostly, are covered here. All of his stuff. But let me tell you this. If you love Stein in general, you owe it to yourself to read this. It's very well written, very well put together, very fun in general. And I don't really say that about a lot of autobiographies I've read in my life. A lot of them are really dry, really overrated. This is absolutely not. I loved it. I had a great time. And I recommend it to all of you. All of you. With all that being said, though, that is my opinion on R.L. Stein's It Came from Ohio, My Life as a Writer. There's really not much to critique about an autobiography, but, you can get into the little details of how something was executed and whatever. I thought this was excellent. It was quick, it was fast, it was detailed for his life of, his kid, Matt, his dog, all of that stuff. I loved hearing about his past as a child. That stuff, again, was fun. It was just so special. And I loved it, and I really, really recommend it to you folks if you haven't read it before. Anyway, if I had to rate It Came from Ohio, My Life as a Writer, I would easily give this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. It was so, so special, as I said. Now, again, I will have a review coming up next. The final, Goosebumps book-related book review until the new releases in the next couple of weeks. The new release in the next couple of weeks, and then the TV show and the newer books coming out, and so on and so on. It Came from New Jersey, My Life as an Artist, by Tim Jacobus, will be the next review I do. I think it was proven, too. I think he admitted, on Facebook or something, he didn't write this, so I don't know. But I'll get into that when I review the book. Anyway, can't wait to read this. Very short read, half the length of, a regular Goosebumps book, so I'll be curious to see what I find out in there. That one has color photos in it, though. I don't think this one even had that, this hardcover. Yeah, this one doesn't have any colorized photos in it either, which is strange to me. But anyway, have you read It Came from Ohio or It Came from New Jersey? What do you think about either of those books? I would love to hear what you have to say down in the comments section down below. Thank you all for watching. God bless you all, and goodbye.